Flash motorcycle. They're looking for what? Video games.
Video games, that's right. With the introduction of the Nintendo Wii, video games have gotten a lot more active. But a group of designers are working on a game system that requires less movement.
That's my kind of game.
Good. So you're really going to like the story, Jay. Here, you got to move your mind, and you're good at that.
So what does a guy dressed up as Darth Vader have in common with a group of Japanese delegates? They're here today to demonstrate some mind-reading technology.
Okay, Darth, show your force.
No one presses a button to turn on the blade. The guy in the costume simply thinks about it. Theatrics aside, it took years to adapt this brainwave reading technology for toys and video games.
It's been quite a trip to go to friends and say, hey, I'm working on telekinesis and I'm making a video game that you can move objects around, and they'd be like, yeah, Johnny, whatever.
This is where it starts. Looks like a simple headset, but this dry active sensor sets it apart. It can pick up brain waves, kind of like the gooey electrodes used in medical research, but without the mess.
This is one of our, what I would call our lab version of the headset. But let me show what is happening right now in this computer. Johnny's brainwaves have been fed into the computer, and what we're seeing here is a raw EEG window. And actually, our circuitry filters out all the noise around him already. In general, when you're calm, you're more on the left-hand side, your wave. When you're very excited or angry, you get more waves on the right-hand side. And we can amplify that to show you.
The human brain generates electrical signals associated with different states of mind. This prototype can tell the difference between when you're concentrating super hard and when you're not concentrating at all. But measuring those brain waves is only half of it.
The second stage is the software, where we have to translate the signal right after it's been processed to what it means. It's kind of like a language translation. Somebody could be speaking a foreign language while it makes great sense to somebody, but if you don't understand it, it's just gibberish.
To translate the brainwaves into a language a video game can understand, they use a computer program. The computer then sends a signal to a game console, and by focusing on a single point on a screen, or by relaxing entirely, these players can get their video game characters to do something just by thinking a certain way.
Right now, games work on reflex. It's how fast you can react, how fast you can move. I think what this can provide is it adds a layer of depth that wasn't there before.
It gives players a different way to manipulate a game.
They will move the cursor around and start pushing things in this room or in this area against each other. And the objective is to try to shove things against each other and kill each other. So I let them play a little bit.
They can push things around by focusing on a particular area of the screen.
Okay, so Johnny just won that wrestle there. Why don't you show the effects of the other way?
And they can also lift objects just by relaxing and trying to stay calm.
Johnny is not going to be able to lift it by himself.
Between the two experienced gamers at NeuroSky, they can relax enough to lift the car. But what happens when visitors try?
In order to move the car, what I want you to do is funnel your mind into like a single point, like concentrate into the car as if this was actual telekinesis, and just concentrate into the car and try pushing it with your mind. We've had people just sit down, start playing, and they can grasp the whole idea like in less than 3 minutes. So you killed him. Good job.
It took this Silicon Valley company 7 years to get this far. It's a challenge to turn a certain kind of brainwave pattern into a video game command. First they have to identify the brainwaves, then they have to design a complicated computer calculation to make it work with the game. Turns out putting the math to work is the easy part.
It's not that complex once it's ready. It's just basically a set of mathematical equation, but it takes time to test it on people and make sure it works everywhere.
To make sure it works everywhere and with everyone, they test their calculations with hundreds of people. They want to make sure when one person is asked to focus and concentrate, for instance, they will get the same result as the person beside them. That's how they know the dry sensor and the computer are doing what they're supposed to do. They'd like to be able to transfer more kinds of emotions into video game action. They'd also like to go wireless.
Plans in the next few months is to transfer all the processing to an embedded processor.
It's early stages yet, but when they're done, NeuroSky will want to push the envelope with video games.
It'll change the way games are even thought of. I mean, right now, it'll add that layer of dimension that, the game starts playing you. It adds the depth.
And for today's visitors, this sneak peek was worth it.
I thought it was like a kind of a dream, maybe in the 22nd century, but it is already here, so it's quite impressive.
It'll be a year or two before the general public gets in on the game.